is a genius. Make no mistake, there is a genius within each and every one of you, craving to come out, craving for the opportunity to come out. That if anybody ever tells you that you do have the potential to reach, to accomplish whatever you like to accomplish in life, please don't doubt it. It is true. Sometimes you may say, yes, Mr. Torres, but I'm not doing very well in math. Well, let me put it this way. There was this little boy who was not doing very well in school. Everybody laughed at him. It took a long time before he learned to talk. So everybody thought the kid was not normal. And one day, the school principal met with the parents and told them it's no use to teach this boy anything. He just doesn't have it. He cannot learn. This boy's name was Albert Einstein. So don't be misled. Don't feel that you don't have it just because sometimes you may find a subject that is a little more difficult than others. If one thing at the end of the day we like you to keep in mind is the fact that each and every one of you is a genius. Now, I was talking to a group some time ago, about 500 students just like you. And I'm telling them, you could be whatever you want to be. A young man raised his hands and he says to me, Mr. Torres, I would like to be a doctor. But my family is very poor. And I am a Dominican. And I am black. I don't think I have the opportunities to become a doctor. Well, let me tell you another story. This young lady, her name is Ana Escobedo Cabral. She is one of 9 of her 5 children. Ana Escobedo Cabral, her father, her parents were very poor. She was born in Mexico, she was born in California. Her parents come from Mexico, and her father used to collect garbage in the streets and seek out those things that he thought that he could convert into a few dollars, and with that, he was supporting his family. Very poor people, uneducated Mexicans. Ana Escobedo Cabral was 9 years of age when she was asked, what would you like to be when you grow up? She said, I like to be an employee of the White House. This is Ana Escobedo Cabral again. This is that same picture enlarged. So Ana Escobedo Cabral said, I like to be an employee of the White House. She had a dream. Now, Ana Escobedo Cabral was laughed at. People laughed at her. How could you be thinking of being an employee of the White House, Ana? Look how poor you are. And then you're a Mexican. And then you're a woman. And then your parents could hardly read and write. Look what your father does for living. But Ana Escobedo Cabral had a real dream. How many of you have dreams? Right. Ana Escobedo Cabral had a dream. She wanted to be an employee of the White House. You all have seen a $1 bill, right? Now, every dollar is signed by the Treasurer of the United States. I have in my hand an enlarged photograph of a $1 bill. The signature in this $1 bill is, thank you. The signature in this dollar bill, wait for me. Ana Escobedo Cabral signs this bill. And the reason I'm telling you this story, my dear friends, is because I don't want you to let the color of your skin or your country of origin or your parents' economic status to deter you from dreaming and dreaming big. Ana Escobedo Cabral also signs the $50 bills. Very poor family, Mexican, but you know what? Ana Escobedo Cabral also signs the $100 bills. She signs billions and billions of dollars. And the reason I'm telling you this story, my dear friends, is because as I glance around this room, I see a lot of Ana Escobedo Cabral in this room. However, what is it that you have to do? What you have to do is to have dreams, to dream big, and then believe in yourself. Make no mistake, my dear young friends, no one is going to believe in you if you do not believe in yourself. You are very important people, you're creatures of God. And everything that God created is good and beautiful. You are beautiful, intelligent people that sometimes don't hear the things. Now, this program today, you're going to be hearing me and two speakers. Let me tell you what the program is all about. We invite two speakers to talk to you, to share with you some of their life's experiences. That is their job. Your job is to make mental notes, to listen, to make mental notes, because either 3 or 5 of you are going to be invited to dinner with your parents, your brothers and sisters, and your teachers, and the two speakers will come back that evening and present you with a beautiful plaque. What you have to do is, you're going to have to listen very carefully because you're going to be invited to enter into a contest. You're going to write an essay. And that essay is based in the presentation that you're hearing today. What impact? What is going to impact? What impacted you at the end of the presentation, of this presentation? That's what you're going to write about. And anywhere from 3 to 5 of you, the school is going to give me the 10 best essays. I'm going to select between 3 and 5. Who am I going to be inviting to dinner with the brothers and sisters and teachers and parents on, I think it's June 28th, and it's going to be at Oscars College. Who am I going to be inviting? Where are the people I'm going to be? 5 people I'm going to be inviting to lunch. To dinner. Let me see those hands. Very good. Pick it up. Say, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Bring it up. Very good. You're going to be meeting there with a lot of other kids from all the schools. You're going to be meeting community leaders. The speakers are going to be there presenting you with a plaque. It's going to be a grand night for you. Now, I have a question. The essay is supposed to be about this presentation. At the end of this presentation, you are going to be thinking, what do I got out of this presentation? How this presentation impacted my life? How am I thinking now? Okay? Have a question? Of course, you are invited to write the essays. Now, let me tell you one thing. The word that you have to think of is invited. You are invited. That means that you now have the choice not to accept the invitation. You choose not to accept the invitation. However, if you do not accept the invitation, now you are denying yourself the opportunity to be invited for dinner. See, my dear friends, life is about choices and consequences. You are continuously challenged. Every second of every minute, every day, you are challenging something. So now, when you are challenged, you have to make certain decisions. And your choices then will give you some consequences. Choosing not to accept this invitation to write an essay based on this program today, the consequence is that you deny yourself the opportunity to have dinner with a group of very important people and to receive a plaque. It's just as simple as that. And with that, I would like to invite to the mic the first speaker, who happens to be a very, very dear friend. We've done this in New Jersey. Let me tell you, this program has been presented to more than 65,000 students just like you in 76 schools in 9 cities. And now, those people that are selected as the best, as the winners of the contest, the essay contest, will be later on participating in another contest for a scholarship. And I'm not talking about a $1,000 scholarship. I'm talking about a real scholarship. This is what we do. Now, I'd like to bring to the front a very dear friend of mine. His name is Junio Alonso. He worked with the Coca-Cola bottling company. He is the home market sales manager. Let's give Mr. Alonso a big round of applause.
Is that the best you can do? Is that the best that you can do? Let me first tell you why I did that. It wasn't because I wanted you to applaud me coming up here. It's because read in your minds. Okay? So think about that. I'm going to let you ponder that over the next couple of minutes while I share with you my story of who I am and where I came from. First of all, I am terrified of you all sitting here this morning in front of me, because I would not want to be in your seat. You see, when I was growing up, and I came from Cuba in 1970, I was 9 years old, a little younger than you all, but probably about the same size. I didn't have anywhere near the peer pressure that there is today, that you all put up with. I didn't have to deal with a cell phone, a computer, one of those Xboxes, whatever they call them. Okay? When I came here, we barely had color TVs. Okay? And if you can bear with me and listen to what I'm going to tell you, I'll share some real interesting things with you. I came here without knowing any English, and in 3 months, I was fluent in English. I came here, they put me in kindergarten at the age of 9, and in a year and a half, I went and I skipped 3 grades. Okay? In a year and a half, I skipped 3 grades. I went from kindergarten to 4th grade. Okay? My parents did something for me that I will be eternally grateful for. That is, they gave me an opportunity. I want you to think about that word. It's going to come back at the end of what I'm going to tell you. My parents gave me an opportunity by bringing me to this country. They didn't bring me here, they didn't give me a cell phone, they didn't give me a computer, they didn't give me anything else except a clothes on my back and a roof over my head. Okay? I grew up, I went to high school. You know what? The reason why I will tell you about being frightened of being your age today is because when I picked a fight with somebody in high school, we used to go to the ballpark and we used to play basketball to decide who was right or wrong. Today, all of you, some of you may go outside and it is not uncommon to see two young men or women beat each other with a fist or take out a knife. That's what scares me. Because you know what? You, at your age, you should be having fun. Fun. You should be having fun at your age. Okay? You all walk around like you're angry at the world. Anyway, getting back to my story. So I went to high school. At the age of 17 years old, I lost my dad. Not that he passed away. My father was absent from home for about 4 or 5 years. And my mother was diagnosed with clinical depression. So at the young age of 17 years old, I had a younger brother and I had to get a full-time job, working at night, while I graduated from high school through junior and senior year. I put myself through while working a full-time job so I could support my brother and my mother while she was in the hospital and my father was in home. I know that none of you have gone through that. And I pray to God that you don't go through that. But that's my life. That's my story. Okay? This is me. I got married at the age of 22 years old. I didn't go to college because Tennessee University offered me a scholarship for track and field. And since I had to work a full-time job at night, so that my brother could have a home and my mother could be and I could take care of my mother in the hospital, I had to get a job. I had to turn down a college education, which I had half of the scholarship was paid for by Tennessee University, and I was a pretty good runner, let me tell you. So I got married at the age of 22 years old, and I went to work for believe it or not, I went to work for Burger King. I went to work for Burger King. Married, I went to work for Burger King at the age of 22. Okay? Don't laugh because one day you may find yourself flipping burgers too. Okay? Something happened. Something happened, and one day I moved from one location to another, and somebody came knocking on the door, and they told me, "We understand that you're looking for a change of careers, and that you're hungry, and you're motivated, and you're a go-getter, and I want to talk to you." And I went to work for a company by the name of Prudential Insurance. So that was a big leap for me. Now I got to wear a suit. By the way, anybody wondering why I'm not wearing a tie? I don't need a status symbol. I don't need a status symbol. My company allows me to wear casual because they don't care about the way I look. They care about what I produce. Okay? You'll learn that a little while. I'm not sure something else to do about that. So anyway, go back to my story. So from insurance, I didn't like insurance. It wasn't my cup of tea, so I went to work for a food broker. And a food broker gave me an opportunity to get into the beverage industry. And 12 years ago, a friend of mine came knocking on my door. Actually, he called me on the phone. And he said, "Hey, they're hiring district managers at Coca-Cola. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Absolutely. It's a lot more money, and it's a much better company." So I went to work for the #1 beverage company in the world, Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Okay? Now, some people would say to me that I'm a success, and I don't consider myself a success. Some people will say to me that I was lucky. Make a mental note of this. You know what my definition of luck is? Where skill meets opportunity. That's the definition of luck to me. I had the skills that Coca-Cola was looking for, and the opportunity was there for me to go an interview. And believe me, I had to pass the interview. It took me 6 months and 42 years to get into this company. And I swore to my wife and my kids that I would never let it go. Okay? So here I am, a big success. You know what? I always wonder what if. I always wonder what if. What if I would have gone to college and gotten an education in Tennessee? Would I have been the young lady that Mr. Torrey was talking about in Washington signing those checks? Could I have been, I don't know, Albert Einstein? I don't think so, John. I don't think I'm an Albert Einstein. But you know what? I know there's a seed inside of me, inside of all of us, that has the potential. You know what it needs? It needs somebody to nurture it. It needs somebody to water it, to grow it. But it starts with you, okay? And I'm going to finish off by reading to you a couple of lines that I picked out from someone who made a speech recently. And the speech says this. Pay attention to this. This is pretty intense. And the reason why I said to you before about, you'll go around so angry. Listen to this, and then you can tell me how you feel about this. Life is not fair. Get used to it. Okay? That's number one. Number two is you will not make $40,000 a year right out of high school. You won't be a vice president with a car phone until you earn both. Okay? Number three is if you think your teacher is tough, wait till you get a boss. They don't have to anymore. Flipping burgers is not beneath your dignity. Your grandparents had a word for burger flipping. They called it opportunity. Remember what I said before about what I did? That's what I called it, an opportunity. Okay? Number five is if you mess up, it's not your parents' fault, so don't whine about it. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from your experience. That's what Mr. Torres was sharing with you before. Okay? The next one is, your school may have done away with winners and losers, but life has not. In some schools, they have done away with failing grades, and they give you as many times as you want to get the right answer. This bears no resemblance whatsoever to real life. Okay? I know because my daughter comes home and she never brings home a book, and I always say to her, when do you study? Oh, Dad, we can take the test over and over again. I can never understand that. I want to take her out of school. I have a 17-year-old son, and I repeatedly tell him not to follow my steps. Because you know what? What if I'm wrong? What if I was lucky? I told my son, go to school and get an education. You don't have to get a scholarship. I will pay for it because I've been there. The last two that I have is, life is not divided into semesters. You don't get summers and Christmas breaks off. And few employers are interested in helping you find yourself. Do that on your own time. And the last one says, well, actually I got two more. Television is not real life. In real life, people actually have to leave coffee shops and go to work. And the last two things that I'm going to share with you is this. Mr. Torres talked a lot about respect before, right? Here's what I tell you about respect. You cannot respect others unless you respect yourself. Okay? You need to respect yourself. And don't allow anyone to tell you that you're not worth what you think you're worth, or what others think you're worth. Okay? Listen more than you speak, because that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's how we learn. And hopefully you learn something here today. And last but not least, set some goals. You cannot hit, I told my kids, you cannot hit the moon if you don't aim for it. Okay? Some people say the stars, I like the moon. All right? So hopefully what I said to you this morning gives you an indication of who I am and how I got to where I am. But I'm a terrible example of those of you that think that if you don't go to school and get an education, you're going to wind up working for a company like Coca-Cola. Because I can tell you this, I just hired 5 people, and all 5 of them had to have college educations. I was the exception, not the rule. Okay, thank you for your attention. Have a great day.
Very good, very good. All right. Mr. Alonso alluded to the fact that it says, those who achieve or fail to achieve. You have the responsibility in your life to achieve or not to achieve anything. You know, you are the architect of your life. Nobody else. You are famous. So was the video, and so was the next speaker. But we chose not to fail. We took charge of our lives because we understood one thing, that the challenges that we were facing was really testing us. And sometimes what happens is we feel very, very comfortable with blaming others. Why do you get drunk? Well, because my friend invited me to get drunk. Why do you cut classes? Because John Doe invited me to cut classes. Why don't you do your homework? Or because it's easier to watch television than it is to do homework. You are making those decisions, my dear friends. Nobody else is telling you to make those decisions. Why are you irresponsible? Because you have chosen to be irresponsible. Why are you teachers responsible, professionals, interested in helping or molding your lives? Because they chose to do that. So, the truth of the matter, my dear young friends, is that you and nobody else is responsible for your life. I like to bring to the mic a young lady that I knew when she was a teenager. Today, she is the executive director of HOPE, and HOPE is a resource center for community development. Let's welcome Marlene Citron.
Can you hear me? I'm trying to put this in such a way so it's not so loud. I want you to hear me, but I don't want to break your ears. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm going to talk very quickly. Because we're coming from and we understand things quickly, right? Okay. My name is Marlene Citron. I was born and raised maybe 15 blocks away from here in the South Bronx. How many of you were raised here in the South Bronx? How many of you were born here in the South Bronx? How many of you were born outside of this country? All right. We're going to talk about all of this because this is important. Hello? Hello? Okay. I was born here and I was raised here. My parents came from Puerto Rico. Both of them came from Puerto Rico in the 1950s. And not Dominican, Puerto Rican. Okay? And they met here. My father was a nurse's aide. He wasn't a nurse. He worked in a hospital and he was an assistant to a nurse. So he used to bathe patients, he used to move patients. And what he did was he assisted the nurses. Mom used to sew in the factories here in New York City when there was an industry up there. Dad only went up to the 3rd grade, and Mom finished her high school here in New York City at night because she hadn't had the chance to finish it in Puerto Rico. So there wasn't a lot of education in my family, but they came here because they understood that this was the land of opportunity. And you know something? 50 still the land of opportunity. You can make it here if, number one, you go to school, number two, you work hard, and number three, as he said, you respect yourself so that others will respect you. Now, in school, I was a great reader. I had a 12th grade reading grade in the 6th grade. But my math was just so-so. Okay, I was just barely scraping by, and by the time I got to high school, I was in trouble. But I understood that it was up to me to decide whether I was going to give up on my math. And I wasn't going to give up on my math. So I hired this really snotty, dorky guy with my allowance money. Does anybody here get allowance money? Does anybody have allowance money? Okay. Back then, I used to get $3 a week. My brother, who was younger than me, used to get $5 a week. And I asked Dad, why do you give him more money than me if I'm older? And he said, because he's the boy. Now I understand that I really should have argued with him in that area, but I didn't, because he was my dad and I respected him. Okay? And I still respect him. But I used my allowance money to hire this really snotty guy who didn't think very much of me to help me with my math, because I needed to pass math. Now, in high school, I was in honor English, I was in honor biology, I was always on the principal's list in junior high school, like you guys are, all right? But I didn't know what I wanted to be. And I played music in the orchestra. I don't think you guys have that. Do you guys have music anymore? Isn't music a wonderful thing? Yeah. Well, let me tell you about music. You know what music is? It's okay. You know what music is? Music is made up. Because all your notes are quarter notes, half notes, 8 notes, 12 notes. I haven't figured that one out. But my math, my music helped me with my math. And so I ended up passing English. I passed English really well, but I passed my math. And I decided that I was going to go to college, even though my parents hadn't. And my college guidance counselor in high school was my junior high school counselor who moved up to high school when I moved up to high school. And this guy said to me that with my average, because I got 90s and 95s and 98s, because my parents, if I went home with an 85, you know what my parents said to me? Is that all you got? I was pretty proud of my 85. I really was. But I understood that it wasn't good enough for my family. So I had to come home with 90s and 95s and 98s. So my 65 in math plus my 90s in my math and English, in my English and science, gave me an average of about 85. And so my counselor said to me, with your average, you'll be lucky to get into a 2-year college. And I was devastated. I really was. I understood that this man knew more about getting into college than I did. And I went home crying, because I wasn't going to get accepted to college. But there was an organization called Aspira, which is an educational organization outside of your school system that helps minority and Latino children apply to college. And I went to my counselor at Aspira crying. He says, my guidance counselor will not stamp and approve my college applications. And so I brought them to her, and she says, he won't stamp them? And she reached into a drawer. I always remember this. And she just grabbed any old stamp that was in her drawer. And she stamped my 7 application. Boom, 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 boom. And you know what she stamped it with? The symbol of Aspira, which is a little boar bird, which is a believing. And this symbol of the bird, it's a little bird that we have in the Caribbean, all right, which is so small, but because it's so small, you know what that little bird can do versus a big bird? It can fly higher than any other bird, because it is so small. It can just lean on the currents that are in the air. And when it gets tired, it just floats on the currents of the air. Because it doesn't matter how tall or how small you are. It doesn't matter how small other people think you are. You decide how high you want to fly. And her putting that little bird on my application, she said to me, yes, you can. So your teachers think you know you, they know you, but only you know how much you can do. Only you know, and you know, and you know how high you can fly. So I sent those applications out, and guess what? I was accepted to almost every single college, 4-year college that I applied to. And I went to one of those 4-year colleges. And you know what I was able to do? I didn't graduate in 4 years. I graduated in 3 years. I worked hard, and I got out because I was in a hurry. I wanted to do things with my life. Then I got accepted into a special program, a graduate program in Washington, D.C. It was to do a master's in education. And your teachers will tell you, masters take 2 years. I did my 2-year master's. I did it in 1 year. And while I was in Washington, the person that I was working for took me to the White House. And there was a president there by the name of Gerald Ford at the time. And I shook his hand. And here was this girl from the South Bronx with parents who had never gone beyond high school. And I was shaking the hand of the President of the United States. And I liked that. I thought that was good. I decided that I wanted more of that. And after my 1-year internship in Washington, I said, I'm going to stay in Washington because I understand that your life, your teachers' lives, all of our lives are impacted by what happens in Washington, D.C. I want to work in a place, in a way, where I can impact the laws that come out of Washington, D.C. and touch us, including how much money your schools get from Washington for your education. So I went to law school, and I got my law degree. And I'm going to tell you something. My dad, with his third grade degree, came to my graduation in Washington, D.C. And the school served champagne and strawberries. Now, my dad was a minister. He doesn't drink. But he picked up this little glass of champagne and the beautiful, huge strawberries that were being served. And he picked up a strawberry and he took a sip from the champagne. And I know that for Dad, that was the sweetest thing he could ever taste and drink in his life. Because it meant that the future of the Cintron family was going to go way above and beyond his highest dreams. I have 2 kids now. My son is 23. He works for the New York Yankees. My daughter is 13 years old, and she was just accepted to Bronx High School of Science. My daughter wants to be the first Latina woman president of the United States. And you know what? She understands that if she works hard, and she's got a 10-year plan, okay? If she works hard, there's nothing she can't do. And that's what I wanted you to know. You're here in the South Bronx, but this place does not define you. You define yourself. Every single person here, understand this, especially for the young girls here, okay? This woman who signs the dollar bills, the $50 bills, and the $100 bills, she went to school. She worked real hard. She was in Washington, D.C. for 12 years, working in other things. So people got to know her, okay? She got married. And you know how many kids she has? She has 8 kids. So it's not It's not like she doesn't have her life outside of her job. So you can have your cake, you can get married, you can have your immense, amazing job, and report to the President of the United States. But you can also have your family too, all right? But you have to do it in order. So, when somebody says to you, and this is what I'm going to leave you with, when somebody says to you, no, you can't, like that guidance counselor said to me, you're going to say to them, yes, I can. And when your parents say to you, is that all you can do with your grades? You're going to tell them, no, I can do better. So every time somebody comes to you and says, no, you can't, what are you going to tell them? I'll see you at the top. Try not to walk.
Number one, I'd like to thank you because you are being a wonderful audience. Let me tell you one thing. When I was your age, I wanted to be an interior designer, an architect, decorator. I wanted to be an interior designer. And everybody told me, don't go into that profession, Junio. You're not going to be a set. Nonsense. I became the first Puerto Rican to earn an interior design degree in the United States. I'm now 78 years of age. This work I do as a volunteer because I see in all our kids, I see a lot of potential being wasted. And the reason why that potential is being wasted is because somehow you got the idea that success comes from heavens in a silver platter. And my dear young friends, that is not the reality of the life that you live. You have to work hard for whatever it is that you want to accomplish. You have to take charge of your life to make something out of yourself. I'd like to give all the teachers here a big round of applause. A big round of applause. Now, about the essay that you have been invited to participate in, the essay contest, 250 words maximum, 150 words minimum. I should have them within the next 2 weeks. And you know what? I'm sure that out of this audience, I'm going to have to select